What's going on, guys? It's Red Bull Tanker, and welcome back to Axis and Allies 1951 Europe. This is turn 12. Alright, we have now entered January 1952. It is now the new year, and bringing us down, about to kick off the last 6 months of the war. Alright, random events. Alright, so the random event went for the Soviets this turn. U.S. Oh, sorry, number 7. U.S. positions in South Korea are atom bombed, -5 from the U.S. income. So the U.S. income lost 5 IPC this turn. The initiative went for the initiative bounced back, going the Soviets, the U.S., and NATO. Boy, just the Allies were really hoping that the initiative rolls were going to stick with them and that they were going to be able to keep on steamrolling, but unfortunately not. Alright, so the Soviets had 84 to spend. They repaired the factory in Kiev. Oops. They repaired the factory in Kiev. They bought 2 mech for Hungary, 2 mech and a tank for Warsaw. Then they bought 3 infantry in the Caucasus, Smolensk, Leningrad, and then they bought 4 infantry down here in Istanbul. Oh, as well as 2 infantry here in Greece. Combat. Alright, so the Soviets did have some combat this turn. The first one, they took their infantry from West Poland and their tanks from Warsaw and attacked the lone NATO mech in Stettin. They killed that. And lost in infantry. Next, the Soviet forces in Slovakia, Hungary, and the tactical in Romania attacked into Austria. They were able to wipe out 2 NATO mech. 2 NATO mech infantry, 3 tanks, and a fighter, and they lost 3 infantry. And then finally, the Soviets gathered their strength up here in northern Russia to attack the NATO army here in Karelia. This fight, boy, the winter weather up there was really harsh up there, because the battle went like 5 rounds, and both sides just were chipping at each other, which in the end the casualties were 2 NATO infantry, a self-propelled gun, and a tank, and NATO lost 3 infantry and 2 Marines. Alright, on the non-combat, they used what rail they could to rail forces west to reinforce Stettin and Austria, as well as sending some rail up here to the north to reinforce the armies pushing on the NATO-controlled territory in northern Russia. And then at the end of the turn, they collected 95 IPC. Okay, over to the Americans. The Americans had quite the turn. They had 58 to spend after lose... Or wait, hold on. What did they have? I think I screwed up their IPC. Oh, shoot. Alright, so they had 68 to spend, -5. So they should have had 63, but some reason I had 68. So they actually get another freebie. Well, I'll just add that on to what they collected at the end. So just give me 2 seconds. So I'll quickly change. I'll change that out afterwards. Alright, anyways. Alright, so what they bought with their 58 IPC, they bought 8 infantry, 4 of which forming a super division of the 26th Infantry Division. Then they bought 2 flagged as the 85th and 2 as the 78th Infantry. They also bought 2 artillery, 2 tanks being flagged under the 12th Armored Division, and then they bought a lone tank regiment that they will use to reinforce one of the other armored divisions around the board. Combat. Alright, the U.S. did quite a bit of combat this turn. Starting off, so They took one of their mech from Cairo and liberated Egypt. So, or conquered Egypt. So Egypt is now in American hands. The other mech in Cairo blitzed into Syria, while this armor mech and SPA blitzed into open Iraq and then back into Syria. They killed a lone mech infantry unit at no loss to them. And then the U.S. gathered all of its strength from 2 infantry and 2 armor from Cairo, the 2 infantry and 2 self-propelled guns from Tunisia, and all the Air Force assets, the 2 fighters, jet, bomber, and bomber. And they launched a land invasion here in Kars to disrupt the Soviet army buildup here in Kars. Apparently the winter weather was also affecting down here in the Med because the offshore bombardment completely missed from the 2 cruisers and battleship that were supporting the landings. And in the end, the Soviets lost 2 mech, a Katyusha, and a tank. And then the U.S. lost 1 infantry here from the 43rd Infantry Division. Alright, there was that one. And then finally, seeing an opening, the United States decided to take the 17th Airborne Division and the 13th Airborne Division from Berlin and drop into Romania to disrupt the Soviet supply lines down there. Alright, and then on the non-combats, the U.S. sent most of its reinforcements here to Turin by sea lift. They did airlift the 2 regiments of the 5th Infantry Division, the 6th Infantry Division to Berlin, and then the 90th Division jumped on these 2 transports, but were only able to make it to Gibraltar because the transports were here. With the naval base here in Portugal, they went 1, 2, 3, and then landed in Gibraltar, but they will be able to reach the area of operations within the Middle East coming up. Alright, and then at the end of the turn, the U.S. collected, they collected 74 plus the 5 from, plus the 5 that they were supposed to have that I accidentally took off, so they actually will have 79 IPC for next turn. NATO. Alright, NATO had 88 IPC to spend. This turn did not entirely go well for them. Alright, so starting off, NATO purchased 2 mech and a tank in Rome, 4 infantry and a fighter in Paris, 2 mech and 2 tank in Holland, and then a tank in Oslo. There was 1 attack. NATO gathered all of its forces from Holland, Reims, and Berlin, and they tried a spoiling attack against the Russian army in Stettin. Oh, they also brought an airborne from 2 airborne from Poland. However, the winter weather in East Germany also was a hindrance to them. Not to mention, too, the Soviets did scramble 2 jets, which were able to kill 2 of the NATO fighters that went into the battle. Luckily, the AAA missed, and for 1 round of combat, the NATO forces were only able to kill 1 enemy infantry at a loss of 3 infantry and 2 mech. And so then the rest of the NATO forces retreated back into Berlin. Non-combats, the 3 infantry here, they sea lifted from London over to West Germany. And that was pretty much it. The bombers from the battle went back to Reims. There wasn't a whole lot for NATO to do. That, like I said, that spoiling attack in Stettin did not go well. It probably, hindsight 2020, probably wasn't the best thing for NATO to actually do. But that's sometimes what happens when you play war. You make decisions, and sometimes they work, and sometimes the dice have other plans for you. Alright, and then at the end of the turn, NATO collected 79, IPC getting some of their liberated territory back. As far as, well, actually, I think the only real liberated territory that NATO got back was Kars. There was something else out there, but now I can't think of what the other NATO territory was that got freed. But all right, well, that is going to be it for turn 12, and we will see you guys next time for turn 13. So until then, guys, as always, take care.